Hello, I'm Dave DeCosmo, and this is Preview, a public affairs program produced for Electric City Television. I, like many of you, are working from home this week because of the Contra virus. And so our guest today will be joining us by a video link on computer. That guest is Tony Harding. Tony's been with us before. He is an advocate for organ donations, and he has good reason to be. But today his story goes beyond that. Tony, you have been on the program several times to talk about the need for organ donors. April, of course, is Organ Donor Awareness Month, and no one is as aware of the need as you, I believe. So if we can briefly review your situation.
Sure. And thanks for having me again, David. My name is Tony Harding, and I'm a two-time kidney recipient. I had my first kidney transplant when I was 37, donated to me from my sister, lasted 12 years. It was a good run, but then I went into kidney failure. I spent 15 months on dialysis, and I got worked up for a second kidney transplant. With having my sister's kidney, I carried her antibodies, which made it very difficult to find a match for me the second time around. I had a 3% chance of finding a kidney. And I got really, really lucky on July 1st of 2015. I was given the gift of life and transplanted a kidney for the second time. Since then, I've had some ups and downs with it. It took me a while to get used to it, for my body to not reject it. We did reject the kidney 3 times. It was difficult to go through that, but I knew in the end, things would work out. Had a couple viruses that came to the kidney, but we knocked all those out, and now I've been fine for the last 4.5 years. I've been very lucky to have this kidney transplant.
Tony, is it usual for a kidney or any organ to be rejected after it's actually been in your body for several years?
It does happen. It does happen. They do wear out. They're not. They're not in their native homes, where they belong, so they have been through some. My kidney function isn't the greatest with this kidney transplant. My function is about 35%, where it would like to be around 60, 65 with the transplanted kidney. So it's working hard, but it's working, and sometimes they do, they estimate 15, 16, 18 years sometimes for a kidney, but they can last a lot longer. And unfortunately, they can last a lot less. They just, sometimes they wear out. Sometimes you can catch a cold and it can attack the kidney, because that's susceptible. Your immune system is down. It's down very low when you're carrying a transplanted organ. So there's different factors that could wear out an organ.
There are so many things to talk about, but as you bring this subject up, I would be remiss if I didn't ask about the current situation with the virus and the scare that has have all of us hunkering in our homes, even doing this program by remote. Is the virus especially a danger for those who have had transplants?
Yes, it is. We are immunosuppressed. We take drugs every day in order to keep our immune system down so our bodies won't reject our organs. With that, we are susceptible to other things. All the rage is wash your hands, use hand sanitizer, cover your cough, all this stuff. That's the life that we lead, In the last 5 years, there were over 300,000 transplants conducted, and we're all living in that same boat. We're living our normal lives as America is panicking over this. We need the hand sanitizer too. We can't go to a big Walmart with all these people around because we're susceptible. Everyone's susceptible to the coronavirus, but if transplant patients get it, we don't have an immune system to help our bodies kill that virus.
So the same process which helps your transplanted organ function in your body, by the same token, in this case, has a reverse danger to it.
It does. We live with this. That's a choice that we all make. We know our immune system is suppressed. This coronavirus is extreme, But we do live our lives with hand sanitizer in our pockets, and wash with antibacterial soap. We do wipe down doorknobs. This is what we do as a community, as a transplant community. There are a lot of us out there, and now everyone is realizing what we're going through, and now we're more of a risk. If we get the virus, we're going to have a tough time sheltering that, and fighting it off. So I reached out to some of my transplant friends. I said, "What are you guys doing during this period?" And most of them are homebound, and taking extra precautions. We know the life that we live, but we also have transplants to live our lives, and go and do things. But those things are scaled back a little bit more because we are that much more susceptible to this.
Indeed, and when you talk about living your lives, Tony, while you were on dialysis, you made very good use of your time. I wonder if you'd recount that for us.
Sure. When I was sitting in the dialysis chair, I was kind of feeling sorry for myself. I was 49 years old. I was out of work. I was suffering from this, kidney disease and kidney failure, and not knowing what my future entails. I could have been on dialysis for the rest of my life, so I wanted to make that productive. So as I was sitting in the chair, I planned a trip, like a bucket list road trip for myself. And I went to the Pro Football and Rock and Roll Hall of Fames. I went to Michigan to see a concert. And I saw The House from A Christmas Story, which was in Cleveland. I believe you were there, David.
Yes, I enjoyed that, yes.
Yeah, and then I saw the house that my dad grew up in Pittsburgh, and a hockey game in Pittsburgh, and then drove home. I did all this in 4 days. First of all, because I was able to, because dialysis was keeping me alive. And I wanted to prove to myself and also the people that I was at dialysis with that you can live your life. This isn't a death sentence. You can you can live your life, and you can do some things that you always wanted to do.
But how did you do that when you have to go every couple days and you're making a trip?
Yeah, well, I was a DaVita patient, and the Fresenius is the same way, and U.S. Renal. All these dialysis centers want you to go out and live your life. And they said, if you want to go somewhere, give us some notice, tell us where you need a dialysis treatment, and we'll find one for you. On my road trip, I needed two. The first day I was out was a Wednesday, so I took a 4-hour dialysis treatment in a hospital in Akron, and then I spent the night in Akron. And then by Saturday morning came along, I had another treatment scheduled at 6 o'clock in the morning in North Pittsburgh. So that's where I wanted to go. They found places for me to, an open chair for me to go to. And I was able to do my treatment, take care of myself, and also do some of the things that I always wanted to do. So
that was pretty impressive to be able
It was a lot of fun. This is the time of the year I went out on March 25th. That was the first day of my trip. So it's this time of year, and I reminisce a lot about it.
Yeah, and I think it's a lesson for others who are perhaps having dialysis to know that there's at least semi-freedom available.
Yeah, and that was kind of the point. When I got back to my dialysis unit, people were amazed that I actually did what I just did, and I encouraged them. I used to go early and stay late to the dialysis units just to talk to the patients, help them get through it. I know it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy for me, but I try my best to rally those troops because it's a tough spot to be in. I've seen a lot of dialysis units as a part of being an advocate for kidney patients, and I see it all over the place. It's a tough spot to be in when you're on dialysis, and that's why we're pushing for organ donation.
Yes, and of course you have spent so much of your time encouraging people to become organ donors. Have you seen that increase at all? Is it pretty steady? What?
Well, organ donations across the board go up about 6.5% a year from 2015. I use that as a marker. That was the year that I had my transplant. So we are getting more and more transplants, and there's a lot of things that are affecting the transplant community too. The opioid epidemic is horrible. It's taking young, healthy lives, and they're taking them away from us. But they are becoming organ donors. So that's there is some solace to the families of the opioid addictions. To let them live forward. So that's helping us, and there's also breakthroughs in medicine. I know there are hepatitis C positive patients that are becoming donors now, because there are drugs to kill and to beat hepatitis C. There are transplants that will transplant hepatitis C positive donors to hepatitis C negative recipients, give them the virus, and then cure them, and then they're transplanted. So now that the technology has come about that we can use these organs, a lot more transplants are being done as well.
I think, as I mentioned, April, Organ Donor Awareness Month, so
Yeah.
obviously there's an extra push during that time of year. Is there a regular, if I can use the term, recruitment effort going on?
Uh, there's always a recruitment effort, but April is Donate Life Month, and unfortunately, with the coronavirus, they canceled the Donor Dash in Philadelphia, which is held every April, and it was actually the 25th. And there was a lot of things planned for that. So that's our big start to push for the month of April. There are hospitals are involved with flag raising ceremonies of the Donate Life flag. A lot of people, there's a lot of tabling events that volunteers like myself, and ambassadors is what we're called. The ambassadors will go out to different healthcare events and set up tables and talk to people about organ donation. There's a lot of myths out there, David, of why I can't be an organ donor, and that's a lot of them. They are myths. The doctor won't save my life if I'm not an organ donor, which is completely false.
That's what I wanted to ask about, and I know we have talked about it before, but I think it's important. Tony, the state has millions of drivers, and when you get your driver's license or when you renew your driver's license, you're asked if you want to be an organ donor. So with millions of licensed drivers, why are there not millions of donors?
A lot of surveys and questionnaires went out, and the results are like 96% are in favor of organ donation. And yes, help the people that need organ donation. But the registered organ donation donor percentage is about 48%. So maybe they're not aware of it. I'm aware of it. My friends are aware of it. My family's aware of it because I was aware of it. And it touches in my circle. A lot of times it doesn't touch your family or your circle, so you're not really aware of organ donation. Why would I be an organ donor? I never even thought of it. This is what bringing awareness to it is all about. The more people we see with programs like this, there are needs for organ donors out there. Across the country, there's 130 million organ donors registered, but there's still 113,000 on the national transplant list. 130 million isn't enough because we still have these people on dialysis in hospitals waiting for hearts and lungs and livers. We're trying to whittle down that list as much as we can by bringing awareness to the need for it. We don't want them to. Your kidneys, you have 2 kidneys, you can share your spare, but for the most part, we don't want your organs now, but when you're done with them, someone can use them.
But you make the point, and I think it's a good one, that although many organs are transplanted as a result of someone passing away, that doesn't have to be the case.
No. Actually, you can donate the lobe of your liver, because the liver will regenerate. You can be a live liver donor, live kidney donor, and also part of the lung can also be transplanted. So, there's a lot of options out there for a lot of people on that waiting list. And I was very lucky, David. I only waited 15 months for my second kidney, but the wait list is 5 to 6 years. Imagine 4 hours a day, 3 days a week, strapped to a chair and 2 needles in your arm, and you're not moving. That's what these people do day after day, week after week, year after year. There are people on dialysis for 15 years, and waiting for kidneys. They just can't find their tough matches. It happens, so it's a tough life to be on dialysis. And now with this coronavirus, I can only imagine, they're all masked up and doing their thing, and they're out with other sick people in a unit, and it's tough on them. So, let's bring awareness to them too. Not everyone that's on dialysis can be on the transplant list, but a lot of them that aren't could be, and they're just not aware of all of their options. So, bring awareness on both ends to get people off dialysis.
So in addition to the extra danger posed to a recipient from this virus, it's likely that, first of all, the workload of the medical community right now, that probably transplants are going to take a dip for a month or two.
I would assume so, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of testing that goes on, pre-transplant. Even when a match is found, I wasn't sure. They did a biopsy on my kidney. They did a lot of work on it. So, with the threat of where is this kidney coming from, it's different. Kidneys are one thing because you can be on dialysis, but then there are hearts and lungs and livers where people are dying to get these organs. So they're in a tough spot. God bless them, the good work that they do, but they're having a tough time. How do we justify this? So it's a tough time in the medical community. I've been in and out of the hospital a bunch of times. I know all the people that took care of me, and now, they're pushing their limits right now.
So the awareness obviously is primary right now, especially with all these other factors pushing in, if I will. Tony, what about the success rate of organ donations? Are most organ donation operations successful? Is it a 50-50? What?
You mean
the success rate? Yeah, success rate.
Yeah, for kidneys, for example, it's like a 98% success rate after 1 year. And that 1 year is a telling tale. Beyond that, it's a little higher, but 98% after the 1 year. And there's a lot of different factors that go into it. The surgeons want to transplant you; they want to get you off that list. But if there's a bit of speculation on that organ, they're not going to do it. What happens is if you get transplanted like I was, you build up antibodies. I have my antibodies, but then I carried my sister's kidney, and I brought her antibodies into the fold. So when I went for my second transplant, my brother was a match the first time around, but he was no longer a match because my antibodies increased. So they're not going to want to put kidneys and organs, and I feel like it's a good shot to work, but it's too risky for it not to work, and then the future is compromised. So they do a lot of testing when they're placing these organs, and it's got to be done in a relatively quick amount of time too. So, I can imagine the stress that they're under now, trying to get people saved, but yet being as cautious as they have to be.
Tony, are matches basically measured by blood type?
For kidneys, there's 3 different blood tests. First, it would be the blood type. O is a universal donor, so O can donate to any of the other blood groups. And once they pass that acceptance, then there's antigen tests. There's 12 antigens in the body. If any one of those of the 12 are matches, then you can go on to the third step. If you got 12 out of 12 antigen matches, that's a perfect match, which is exciting, but it doesn't happen very often. And then the last one is the antibody test. What antibodies do you have that will reject something that's foreign that comes into your body? And that's the one that could make or break, because that's the last test. And if people are on dialysis, they get their blood drawn once a month. So the current record of these antibodies are on file in case a kidney comes up with a match. They have something readily available to make sure that donor is going to work. A lot of times, that's the telling tale, and that donor is not going to work, and you're back on the list. That's why we need more donors. That's why we're pushing donors, because only 1% of all of the people that are registered as organ donors and they pass away, only 1% of them become organ donors, because you have to die in a very specific manner under the certain circumstances. So not all organ donors can become organ donors. So there's so many factors that whittle away that 130 million to actually get it in an organ place.
And I would think that our older population might be more inclined to be donors, and yet because of their age or because of medications they have been on, they may not qualify in certain instances. And by the same token, or the other side of that coin, the young people don't think about it at all usually.
That's what you're up against, and as far as deceased donors, I think the deceased donor age limit is 65. I think there was a new initiative that brought that up to 70. But as far as the younger donors, that we need them to become organ donors, and they're a very progressive group. The millennials. So if they're brought into the fold and they're made aware of the need for it, and over the last 5 years, like I said, there's so many people that were transplanted. It's going to start touching lives, and that's going to bring awareness across the board too. But the younger people, it's a big age group, and unfortunately, there's a lot of factors that go into becoming an organ donor, and we just need as many registered as we can. And you can go into the website donors1.org, the number 1, and all you need is the last 4 digits of your social security number and your driver's license number. And that's all you need to do to register. You don't have to wait until you go to PennDOT to renew your license. You can go right online and do it today. It's not going to say that on your license, of course, but you are registered in the database, and that's what we want. We want to increase the number of donors in that database to get people off dialysis and out of hospitals waiting for organs.
I gather you're trying to make more efforts to reach younger potential donors. I know you've had a couple games with the rail riders to encourage families to come in, and during those games, I guess you get a chance to make your pitch. Other things like that in the works?
Yeah, there are. I do have a game scheduled for August 9th again this year, the 4th annual Organ Donation Awareness Day with the rail riders. It's a great event. There's a lot of people that come out to a ball game on a Sunday afternoon. It's usually a beautiful day, so you go on the field and, I have people throwing out the first pitch that organ donation touched their lives, and there's a little bit about that person, the last few years that I've had, the game, and then you talk about organ donation, and these people are listening to you, and there's a lot of the volunteers that come out. The Northeast Coalition of the Organ Donor Program, we meet once a month, to have some ideas of how we're going to raise awareness, and they all volunteer, and they come out to the game, and they're passing out the green bands that we have, and talking to people if they have any questions. We're knowledgeable. We understand the process. We know some of the reasons why you think you should be an organ donor, and we know why, the reasons why you should be. So we're out there to talk to people. Anybody that stops us, I wear a green wristband all the time. And if I see someone in the store or someone on the street with a green, I'll strike up a conversation. What's your connection? Just to know that there's a community out there. And a lot of people are wearing them because a family member was a donor. And it's very sad. But if it wasn't for family members like that wanted to become a donor and died tragically, saved my life. And I'm sure up to 7 more for that one donor. You can save eight people with one organ donor. And so countless amount of lives for tissue and things that other tissues and things like that for breast reconstruction, things like that. It's just more than organs. It's a gamut.
Yeah. Once again, for those who might be watching this and considering the possibility of listing themselves, what should they do?
They could go to donors1.org, and there's a lot of information on organ donation. A lot of the questions that you may have as under the frequently asked questions, and my religious questions of being an organ donor, myths that are dispelled. There's a lot of good things that the donor programs do across this country, and bringing awareness is one of them. This is, April will be our month. We're going to be stifled a little bit because we're not going to go out and have those tabling events and those large gatherings, but we're doing what we can to still raise awareness.
Well, my hat's off to you for your efforts, Tony, and certainly I wish you continued good health in your particular situation. I thank you once again for joining us on our program, and we'll look forward to having you back again, and we'll look forward to those donation numbers just shooting skyward. How'll that be?
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. That's the plan.
Tony Harding, thank you so much for joining us on Preview.
Thank you, David. I appreciate it.
Again, thank you, Tony, and thank you for joining us on Preview during this special edition. We'll see you again next time, and until then, I hope all your news is good.